Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
This is Kutztown Live, Kutztown University's campus and community issues talk radio magazine. You can listen back to any of our episodes of Kutztown Live by going to Spotify and searching Kutztown University Radio. And now, your hosts of Kutztown Live.
You're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. Welcome to Kutztown Live. I'm your host, as always, DJ Aaron B. And to start off the show today, I'm actually doing more of an introduction. I usually just jump right into it if I have an interview. But this interview coming up was kind of special because I wasn't able to do it. We were given the opportunity to interview a upcoming viral comedian, Eric D'Alessandro, who just did a show in Allentown a couple weeks ago, and he has a show upcoming in Philly. So they reached out to us asking if he could do an interview on the show. So we set up an interview over the phone. Unfortunately, I was not able to make the time. It was when I had a late night class. So my I guess fill-in co-host for the past couple shows, DJ AC, was able to step in and fill in for me. So I'm gonna throw it to that interview now. Big thanks to AC for helping me out with that one. So take it away.
Listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. Welcome back to Kutztown Live. I'm your host, DJ AC, filling in for Aaron B. temporarily. I have a special guest with me. I have comedian Eric D'Alessandro. Did I say that right?
That wasn't the worst I've heard, yeah.
Well, as an Italian myself, I figured it would be a good pronunciation.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. People usually get confused by the Italian. People just gotta basically pretend like it's not there. Just D'Alessandro. Oh,
okay, D'Alessandro, gotcha. I mean, my last name is Sarah, and people mess it up just all the time.
C-E-R-A?
C-E-R-R-A.
Okay.
Yeah,
I could see that.
That's the closest anyone's ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
But without further ado, we will get this interview started. So, from your perspective, how does the evolution of social media help you prosper as an entertainer and content creator?
You just really get more eyes on you quicker. It's a much faster way to reach a lot more people. Back in the 70s and 80s, you would have to go club to club, and hopefully your name would spread that way. This way, you can reach thousands upon thousands. You know, if you get lucky, you could even reach millions with one lucky video. So it really is absolutely everything.
Yeah, it's just by chance.
Yeah, I mean, also hard work. It definitely comes back to that. Consistency is huge. And you have to do what you do, but it's just a better way to reach people. There's just a great tool. You can't just coast on it. You still have to put in the work, but it's definitely like the invention of the wheel and all the way it's just changed everything.
Right. I know with our social media accounts, it can be a little difficult to actually spread our content, so I understand how that feels.
Yeah, definitely.
It all just takes time and patience.
That's right.
So, as a comedian, how do you find everyday habits and standards humorous while keeping a pop culture climate that moves as fast-paced as ever?
Yeah, things that make me laugh, I take notes on my phone, and things that make me angry, I don't even realize in the moment, but later on I'll realize that might have been funny. In the moment I was screaming angry, but
and it would make a really good talking point, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. People always think I'm much angrier than I am, because that's my point of view, but it's all a performance, it's all an act. I'm not that angry all the time, but that's sort of what I've gravitated towards lately, I guess, living in LA.
I can understand that. I mean, personally, I find a lot of things humorous, so I honestly understand.
Oh, well, yeah, that's good.
So, as a fellow Italian-American living in New York, how do you find your inspiration to make your work meaningful to those who listen to you?
Yeah, you bring up the Italian thing. I've always wanted to sort of speak out against all the stupid stereotypes like the Jersey Shore and the Sopranos, because I didn't grow up like that, and I always make fun of quote unquote those Italians who I think a lot of Italian Americans kind of can't stand, and I didn't grow up like that. My family wasn't like that, so
Yeah, my family was definitely not like that. Nowhere near like what they make the Sopranos out to be.
yeah, no, exactly.
Or-
Me neither. Like
Or the people
Staten Island is a huge-
or the
Yeah,
people
Staten
in
Island-
or the people in Jersey Shore that are just like, oh, gym tan, laundry, fist bumping in a club. It's not really like that.
Yeah, exactly. No.
I mean, yeah, I can understand that. What do you know where in Italy you come from?
So the nearest I know is my mother's family is from a place in Sicily called Marineo.
Okay.
And my dad, I don't even know. I asked my dad anything. He just said, I don't know where. And he doesn't.
Yeah, I can
He doesn't give me a lot of
understand. I can
information. But
understand
my
that.
grandparents were born in America, so I'm extremely American. I've never been to Italy. I don't root for them in the World Cup. We know a lot of Guidos from Staten Island do. I'm very much American and proud to be.
I'll never forget rooting for them in 2006 when they won. I know personally.
cool.
I know personally. I'm not exactly sure where my family comes from. It's somewhere in around like Gubbio, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Where I come from in Scranton, they have the La Festa dei Ceri, where they celebrate the Three Saints.
You're from Scranton?
Yes.
Are you a big Office fan?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah. I mean, I was
Yeah,
never a big fan of it at first until I believe like the more I matured, the more I understood the show, it's in of itself, and now I just can't stop watching it.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
I know some people will hit me with the like, oh, like was it actually filmed in Scranton? And unfortunately, it wasn't. But like some B-roll footage was shot in Scranton, and like they make a lot of references to the popular places in Lackawanna County. And I remember I can just sit there in front of the TV and be like, oh, like I know where that is, or like I know exactly what they're talking about. They even mentioned my high school in one episode.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, the Dunder Mifflin is actually not that far from me. I see like where they shot the outside of the office in
Oh, really?
Culver City. Yeah.
Have you ever like seen the building yourself?
I have, yeah, several times. Now they covered it up with a big wall of like bushes, but years ago we used to be able to just see it, and it was amazing. Me and my friends used to go there, and I take pictures and stuff back when I would visit LA. But now that I'm living here, of course, I brought my friend there. He's a huge Office fan.
Is it
Yeah,
like a
it's
huge
awesome.
tourist trap?
No, it's really not. You're really not. There's no tours or anything. It's just a studio, and it's like at the end of like this block where there's like a bunch of like garages and auto body shops. So
Oh,
you
wow.
never know.
Well, I mean, I can tell you now, there's not necessarily such a thing as a Scranton business park, not that I know of. But there's definitely not a building like that in Scranton, not that I know of.
Yeah, no, you can see the palm trees in the background when it's
Yeah. I always try to make that point, but people don't seem to like realize that, and the fact that sometimes when they're driving on the road, it almost seems like too straight of a road, like such a long stretch. It has to be in California. Scranton has none of that.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So, how do you find purpose in life without succumbing to the pressure of choosing between practicality and creativity?
Oof. I guess I'm just really lucky, man. That's what I moved out here for. Like, the practicality thing didn't work for me. I was just really unhappy. So I knew I needed to follow my heart. And no matter how I was going to make that work, I needed to make it work. So I just stuck to what was important to me, just really working hard on comedy and writing and putting out things as much as possible. And thank God it started to work out when it did. But yeah, I'm just really lucky that it worked out, because I know people can do that for a long time, and if it doesn't, then what do you do? So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always good to follow your heart, even especially when you're making such a big transition in your life like that, going from Los Angeles to New York, and even here in Pennsylvania.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely.
I know personally.
It was crazy, but it was good.
I know personally, I've always dreamt of like living somewhere outside of Pennsylvania, or even like or even somewhere that's not like Eastern PA, somewhere maybe West.
Yeah, you should come out here, man. The West is really nice.
My older brother lived in Redlands for, I mean, quite some time, probably 5 years now, and he says he really likes the area. I mean, it sounds pretty convincing.
Yeah, I was riding with the windows down before. It's really beautiful here.
I definitely have to check out California sometime in my life.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Now, does it ever get stressful to move across the country while applying a humorous take on lifestyles in both LA and New York?
When I first moved out here, I really wasn't even doing that stuff yet. I was just terrified. And then when I started to live out here, I started to notice all the differences. But I was just kind of enjoying the ride when we first moved out here. And then when I started to get deep back into writing comedy, I just started to notice how out of touch I felt with everybody here. And that's when the Italian stuff started to come out more.
Okay.
Back in New York, I felt like I wasn't that Italian, but in LA, I feel like I'm one of the Super Mario brother or something. It's so different.
Okay. I mean, I can definitely see that. Do you feel like kind of, how do I say, like one of a kind, or you don't feel like you're surrounded by so many Italians?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's nice though. It is nice. It's different, and I definitely enjoy it because I go back to Staten Island, New York a lot. So.
Okay. I know personally where I live on the outskirts of Scranton, and like the demographic is just entirely Italian. And when we have La Festa dei Ceri in Jessup, it seems like the entire town just like floods into this celebration. It really makes you think like how many people actually live here and how many people came here like so long ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. I gotta check that out. Me and my girlfriend definitely are huge Office fans. We definitely gotta check that out.
Yeah, for sure. And La Festa dei Ceri happens, I think, it's like the week before Memorial Day, and it's kind of like I want to say it's a whole thing, but realistically, there's just a carnival that happens in Jessup during that week, and then on actual Sant'Ubaldo Day, that's when they have the celebration. But like the entire area just calls it like Ubaldo as a whole, or like La Festa dei Ceri.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it really is a fun experience. Now,
yeah, that's good. I gotta check that out.
You need to. Now, lastly, I heard you have an upcoming show on March 4th in Philly, as well as your sold out dates,
right.
as well as your sold out dates in New York, Long Island, and Point Pleasant. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, man, I would love for all the people of PA to, especially ones near Philly, to come out. It's been an incredible time. I was just in Allentown, and I got 2 shows, March 4th, 7:30 p.m., 10 o'clock p.m. We added a late show. And
Okay.
it's a good time, man. People should definitely, stand-up comedy is at a really good place right now all over the country. It's kind of on fire, and I think people who are so used to being on their phones and everything, live comedy, there's really nothing like a live performance. So
I
if you
do.
have some time, come check it out. It should be a good time.
I do personally love comedy. Honestly, I mean, I remember in high school I would always used to listen to stand-up comedy shows on something like Pandora and everything, and that's how I got into like knowing the comedians that I know already. Jim Gaffigan being my favorite. Maybe you could change my mind.
Oh yeah, Jim Gaffigan's pretty great, man. I don't know, I wouldn't call myself that great, but hey, you never know. Maybe you can come out and see for yourself.
All it takes is practice and just getting to know, or getting the right people to laugh. You know.
Yeah, maybe I'm your cup of tea, and we'll have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that concludes the interview. Thank you so much for coming on, Eric.
Of course, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, folks, make sure you go to Eric's show in Philly on March 4th. You can acquire tickets at ericdelisandro.com. That's ericdelisandro.com. Stay tuned for more content. You're listening to Kutztown Live. I'm DJ AC, and you're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR.
You're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. Welcome back to Kutztown Live. I'm your host, as always, DJ Aaron B., and I am joined by my weekly guest, Donovan, from the Keystone Newspaper. How are you doing this week, Donovan?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. So what's going on at the Keystone this week?
So,
This past week, we did cover a few events. I know today, the Pink Collar Jobs event that's being run by like the Women's Center and like FMLA and all those people, we got an article out about it, I think just yesterday. And then coming up, there will be a climate movement event for KU, pushing for KU to kind of join like the more like, you know, as like a university joining the more global climate unit.
We had one of those last semester too, I believe.
We did,
the one
yeah.
right outside of the library.
Yeah, that happened, and then there was going to be the Mr. KU mail pageant. That's also
Mr. KU.
also today, Mr. KU.
Okay.
That'll be happening. This is about a month from now, but KU's Got Talent's also coming up. I figured that would be worth covering. As far as sports go, I know that women's bowling is ending. Baseball is coming up, so we're gonna have like probably some articles just about like the upcoming seasons, like previews for like, you know, for like baseball and softball and for like other sports coming out. A lot of intramural sports have started up now.
You know, sorry to interject. I was just curious, just because they're new, and yeah, you guys already cover sports. Have you guys started covering the sports team?
Yes, we did have one article written about them, just kind of like announcing like, hey, esports is like a thing, because a lot of people did not know like going into the semester that it would be a thing. And
if I didn't come down here to the studio and like have to walk by that room, I probably wouldn't have. Known.
Like people on campus during the winter knew. Like I knew because I work at the MSU and I was here during the winter, and like the like first floor of this building like smelled like burnt rubber for like a good week because they were repainting the walls, they were redoing the carpeting, like everything was changing. Like
they have a whole new internet system.
It's a whole thing. So yeah, we're definitely gonna be doing more with esports hopefully in the future. We want to cover like their tournaments and things like that.
Yeah, they just had one over the weekend, I know.
I believe so, yeah. So we're gonna try and get in touch with people like that coming up. And then for my section Freeform, we have been covering a bit about the election. We want to cover more about, I guess, just for the Pennsylvania primary, everything that you'll need to know. Whoever's still in the race by then.
Do you know when the Pennsylvania primary is?
Not the exact date, but it should be like the first week of April.
It's in April, okay.
I believe. It's usually in April, but I don't know the exact day, but it's coming up, and so we want to have something prepared for that. And then I did mention this last week, but Facebook would be facing, like, at the time it was like a $9 billion federal lawsuit by the IRS. I believe now it's spiked to like 15,
Oh,
17.
it went up.
Yeah, because they keep finding more and more just
good
cases of Facebook just evading their taxes. Which I mean makes sense because like they've just incorporated so many things and bought so many businesses. It just makes you wonder where they get all the money from. And so that would explain it not paying their taxes. So I had someone write an article on that should be coming up within the week or so. And then there was another thing with Firefly. I was going to read a little bit about the article. It was written by our copy and line editor, actually, Ella, who's a really good writer. She wrote about KU professors and students were launching new poetry books at Firefly, and they did some spoken word there, because I believe that they do that every now and then.
The Firefly, the music festival, the one down in Delaware.
Oh, I'm sorry. Firefly, the bookstore on Main Street in Kutztown. Yeah, I should have clarified that. The bookstore has like some slam poetry events usually, and then they have like students come by. I go there pretty frequently because I just like to buy books usually, and so I was reading a little bit about it. It's an interesting article because she mentions let's see, there's a student, a junior named Ellen Robinson, and then there were also professors Dr. Brandon Krieg and Dr. Robert Philman, and they had some interesting quotes in this article. Robinson actually self-published a book called The Smoking Lung, and she took the stage. She requested a moment of silence for anyone who had lost their lives to domestic violence, because that's kind of the theme of her like stories and books and poetry as well. She said, "I struggled a lot with my instance of domestic violence, and I let that really define my year. And this book is a testament to that new suffering, but also to the joys and beauties that still exist in this world." which I thought was a pretty profound quote. And I enjoyed the way that was written. So like occasionally we do like personal stories of like students, like profile pieces. I just done one recently about Sam Fairchild I mentioned last week. But we want to do more of those for sure. So I guess for now I'll just say, like, for my section for Freeform, if anyone who's listening to this is looking to write for Freeform and do like a student story and kind of like talk about something that like no one else would know about, because, you know, I mean, it's a person's just going about their day-to-day life. They're not going to think about, oh, hey, maybe my story is worth being around the paper, but more often than not it is, because some people can relate to that. So and some people have like some really strong things to say, I've noticed when I've interviewed them. So I just thought it'd be a cool thing for anyone who's interested, if they'd want to write for Freeform, pitch anything like that, that you can just email me. My email is dlevi, dlevi646@live.kutztown.edu, and then you can also check out our website to see the other staff members, and then contact any of them if you have like anything sports related, news related, or just arts and entertainment related, and then our lead writers will get right on that immediately.
Very nice.
And then we also had a crime alert about, it was last night actually, it was around 3 a.m. In Rothermel. There was a sexual assault offense that was reported.
Terrible.
Yeah, for sure.
There's too many of those on college campuses, especially this one.
We can't disclose any other details other than that, because Pub Safe usually keeps under wraps, but that incident did occur last night, so we'll probably have something up about it within the day or so.
Yeah.
So we'll report that as well.
When I started here, and I was in a first-year seminar class, I remember the first time that it ever happened, like the first time I ever got a timely warning when we were here, my first-year seminar professor decided to talk about it the next day, and he mentioned that in like most of those emails about like crimes happening on campus, and especially the sexual assault ones, it'll say in there that the victim or the assailant is known to the victim.
Yeah, it says has been identified to the police.
Yeah, he said that that's the worst part of it, is that they always know, like apparently, like if the emails are always right, like most of the time the people know who's doing this to them.
Right. But it's never disclosed to the public. Like,
yeah,
it's hard for us, even the Keystone, like the newspaper on campus, to like find out the details about things like this.
Yeah, it's a shame. Is that all I have for this week?
That's all I got for this week.
All right. Well, Donovan, thank you so much for coming on the show this week.
My pleasure.
Will see you, as always, again next week. So you stay tuned right with us here on Kutztown Live for more of me. As always, you're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. We'll see you right after the break. You're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. Welcome back to Kutztown Live. I'm your host, as always, DJ Aaron B, and we have wrapped up our interviews for today. So I got two things I wanted to say before I jump into our news segment. First of all, goes to content on the show. Now part of this show is about issues in the community and on campus. And I feel like Josh and I were able to have a lot of good discussions last semester about issues going on in the community. And this was driven by community Facebook posts in the community group pages. And this is a call to action for people to start posting in those Kutztown groups again. It gets me really good content for this show. It makes me know what people in the community actually want to be said and talked about. I really like those groups. So keep posting in them, members of the community and students. Students, start posting on the MyKU app more. Well, what are your issues? What are your gripes? I'd love to have you on the show. Love to have you come and talk. I would love to make the show more about the issues that concern everyone here in Kutztown. I said I had a second thing, but I forgot what it is. So we're moving right into the news. So right here in our town of Kutztown, hundreds of new water meters that are just installed are going to have to be repaired because they aren't reading properly. The company that have put them in said that they sent out notices to customers saying that There's something about the clamps in the transmitters isn't working properly, so hundreds of people will need to get their brand new water meters fixed here in Kutztown. The company is offering appointments next week to get that fixed, so make sure you go and get that fixed if you have a new water meter and it isn't reading properly. Some Albright students have been truly boned by the coronavirus, as they had a trip planned for about 9 Albright college students to go to Paris and Madrid over a 2-week period, but this was just canceled by the school due to fears over coronavirus. As we all know, coronavirus is spreading about the globe, and it has hit Europe about now, especially in the nation of Italy. People in Italy are under a heavy quarantine right now. So the school is interested in the safety of the faculty that were going on the trip and the 9 students that were planning to go. So they have canceled the trip. A group that raced horses on Skyline Drive will face charges. Now, a group of individuals decided to race horses on Skyline Drive down in Reading. Just straight up like racing horses, just like placing bets on them, just like you would do at a track, just in the middle of the street. I'm looking at pictures right now. They have pictures of the road that just have like hoof marks in them from the horses just racing down what just looks like just a regular road. It doesn't look like anything special. But this city of Reading prohibits horseback riding in city limits, especially this kind of reckless racing, I guess you could call it. So these men are being prosecuted. So, yeah, take your sides on that. Let me know. Do you think you should be able to race horses in the city? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Horses, they create a lot of mess. They create a lot of problems. If you weren't aware. Now, state officials are warning about a 2020 census scam. A lot of Pennsylvanians have gotten something in the mail saying it's from the Department of Community and Economic Development. But this is a scam. The 2020 Census Bureau wanted to let everyone know that if you receive anything in the letter saying that it is from the Census Bureau, from that department as well, it is not real. They have not sent anything in the mail. So disregard that, and get hyped for the census this year. I know that I personally am very excited to be counted. I think being counted is an important part of every country. But it's that's about all the local news I have. In national news, the only thing I really have is that it is Super Tuesday. So 10 states and American Samoa are voting in the primaries today. So if you live in one of those states, make sure you go out and vote today. I saw already that California was having a decent amount of problems with voting. A lot of people had really long lines to get into the polls, like hour-long waits just to go vote, and that's kind of ridiculous. I'm used to strutting on into the old elementary school, casting my vote, and walking out while the elderly look and applaud because I'm a young man voting, and all my fellow college students should be doing that too. Go be that young man or woman voting. It looks good on you. But that's about all I have for right now. When we come back, I'm gonna do our weird news segment. I'll be joined by my new producer, Vinny P, on that one. Hi, Vin. So make sure you stay tuned for that. You're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. You're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. Welcome back to Kutztown Live, a little quicker than normal. I'm your host, as always, DJ Aaron B. And for our new weird news segment, I still haven't come up with an official name for it. I've been just like battering ideas around my head. But what am I going to call it this week? Weird World Today. That's
Weird World Today.
That's it. That's what I'm doing today. I'm actually really excited. There was some weird news this week. You ever heard of auto brewery syndrome?
No, I haven't. What is this weird syndrome? It sounds really fun.
No, auto brewery syndrome. Even though it sounds fun, I can imagine it's not great for the people who have it. It's people whose body they can take yeast and ferment it like you do in a brewery, like to make beer. So the person is usually just in a constant state of delusion. It's a very, very rare genetic disease.
It sounds horrifying, but also like, imagine just being like that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I want to imagine that, but that has been a thing that's been known for a little while now, like that kind of disease. But there's a new one. There's something new. We've been thrown a curveball by our bodies. A woman in Pittsburgh has just been diagnosed with the first ever case of auto-urinary brewery syndrome. Now, like it sounds, it is also very aptly named. Like it's dad disease, I'll call it.
It's dad disease.
Now, this woman, she's 61. This woman who just found out that she had it.
Oh wait, really?
Yeah, she hasn't known her whole life. It's not like auto brewery syndrome where her body just makes it and she's constantly drunk. In this way, it's
she's able to expel it.
Yeah, it's just in urine. It's just, she expels.
So wait, she doesn't
booze.
get drunk. She just makes it, and she's like a literal like her own brewery.
Yeah, pretty much. And the way she found it out is actually really terrible. She went to her local hospital because she's having liver problems. And,
I wonder why.
And she wanted to get put on the donor list, like to get a new liver. And they were running the test and everything. She got put on the list, and they were running the test, and they took like a urine sample, and they were like, she's wasted. We can't be giving this woman a new liver. She is very drunk. She is very much intoxicated, and so they went to her and they said, "I'm sorry, you can't be on the list." And she was like, "I don't drink. I don't drink at all. I don't know why this is happening to me." And they were like, "Well, your urine has betrayed you. It has told us." And she knew that this couldn't be right, so she went to doctors at the University of Pittsburgh. And they were running tests on her, and they were skeptical of her too. Just like the other hospital, they were like, God, this drunk's coming in and just begging for a new liver. And with their urine samples, they constantly tested them, and they realized that the urine that they were storing was getting stronger in the alcohol potency, and that's how they realized that. It's fermenting.
So, like, it's not even that her stomach or liver is fermenting it. It's literally, like, her bladder is fermenting it. Wow, that's a weird stage of evolution.
Yeah. So good news for her, though. She got put back on the liver donor list. I hope she got... I don't know how those really work, but I hope, like, if there's a spot that she's on, she got back that spot or higher up on the list. Because that's really unfortunate to happen. I love reading, like, a lot of these weird news stories are, like, health related, and I would hate to be these people with these really out there, like, brand new diseases, no matter how cool they sound, because people just don't believe you.
What's another one that no one believed?
People definitely didn't believe auto brewery syndrome. They were just, it's the town drunk.
She's at it again.
Yeah, this poor man, just anytime he eats bread, he's just getting wasted. It's unfortunate.
I don't even think he can legally drive.
No, I actually don't. I should have looked into that. I am curious about, like, what their state of being able to drive and that kind of stuff is.
Because I know about the guy when he got pulled over. The only reason why he knows he has the brewery disorder because when they did the breathalyzer on him, it was like 4.0. They're like, he should be legally dead.
Yeah. That article was also from pretty recently. I remember the CNN article about that guy.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I hope he's doing well as too. I hope everyone with this disease is doing well, because as cool and as bro as it sounds,
it's very unfortunate to those who have it. 'Cause they don't actually are drinkers.
It's just straight up debilitating. But this story, I don't even know if this one's a little more fun. This is just a straight dangerous driver. A British Columbian truck driver was pulled over, and he was found to be using flashlights for his headlights. And they went out, and they also discovered that this is the 10th time he's been pulled over without having insurance.
I'm imagining when they pulled him over, they're like, sir, your headlights, they're flashlights, and they're out, and they're just haphazardly duct taped.
They were just actually they weren't duct taped. They had the
were they zip tied?
Yeah, they were, and they initially pulled him over because he had an unsecured load. It was a truck. He was just hauling stuff, and he just had one tow strap down, just one strap.
That's
holding
some Final Destination stuff right there.
Yeah, and so they pulled him over. The police officer walked around to the front of the vehicle and just looked, just two flashlights just strapped down to the front of the truck, just serving as headlights, and I don't even know. This is the 10th time that they found him driving this exact vehicle without insurance. How does he still A, have this vehicle, and B, how does he still have a license?
I think he might be able to pay off his I don't know what driving laws are like in Canada, but I imagine he's just able to pay off his fines and never actually have to go to court. So his things never actually get, to a serious point where they're like, we have to revoke your license. But after that, I mean, as the officer, I would have just taken his license there.
Yeah, this man he's a menace on the road.
Oh, God.
I'm looking at some of the pictures now. It wasn't even just the headlights; it was the taillights too.
Were they have a red gel, or bicycle reflectors?
No, it's just this is a really long flashlight too. But you know how I mentioned that the load was being held down by the one tow strap?
Yeah.
The flashlight's attached to that tow strap in this picture.
This man is dangerous.
This is dangerous. I like this.
He's bold.
Now, I mentioned this last week on the last episode we did of Kutztown Live was on Fat Tuesday, the day before Ash Wednesday and the start of Lent, which meant Mardi Gras was over the weekend. Woo! So, of course, we have a cool story from that. Epstein didn't kill himself float appears at Mardi Gras parade.
Can you describe this? So, sadly, to our viewers at home, they don't have the visual element here. So, can you describe this float as best as you can?
This float is quite something. It's all made out of paper mache. I think all of the floats are for Mardi Gras.
They are.
And it is a depiction of the late terrible human being Jeffrey Epstein with former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton coming from behind and choking him to death. And on the side of the float it just says Epstein didn't kill himself. And it caused quite a stir at Mardi Gras. I saw it all over Twitter the night that they did the parade.
Whoever made that deserves an award.
It's very colorful. It's very well made.
They put time, effort, and thought about this joke well in advance, knowing that this meme might be dead by this time.
Oh yeah, and they did it anyway, and I respect it. I respect it a lot.
I do too. Speaking of Lent, what's another weird thing that happened in the news?
This 100% might be my favorite headline I've ever seen. Pope Francis urges faithful to give up trolling on social media for Lent.
We've went down the dark timeline.
This is the worst timeline. The poor 90-year-old Pope Francis has to ask people to stop being mean on the internet. This is
Like this is the weirdest time I've ever seen. Like you think like sci-fi writers of the past would be able to predict, like they thought the internet would be like a great thing, this infinite access to information, and all it's done is make people slightly more mean.
It's created internet trolls, and I wonder if the Pope was like getting made fun of on Twitter, and like this was his response to it.
Please stop making fun of me.
He gave it to like an official speech. I'd like to mention that a lot of like these weird news articles like get off of like kind of obscure like sites, like not like obscure, but like not off of like the big like reporting stations like CNN, Fox News, but like everyone reported on this. Like I found this article everywhere, and it's so funny.
I think that's hysterical. There's some moments in this timeline that make me laugh, and I think that that's gonna be it. That's like the game changer. That's how you know we went down a weird time. Someone is gonna talk about this in history books.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know did you hear about the dude last year who for Lent he gave up food. He was just drinking beer for all of Lent. He did well. He lost a bunch of weight. He said he felt amazing at the end of it. He's doing it again this year.
Oh wow.
Last year he only did 30 days. This year he's doing the whole 40.
I can imagine like at the gates Peter's like I guess I gotta let you in.
Like Is eating food a vice? I guess it could be eating to excess.
Most Catholics give up red meats.
Yeah, red meats. I know, like chocolate's a big one. Like
that's for suburban
junk
families.
Food. Yeah. I thought like the red meat thing was everyone though. Like everyone had to give up red meat.
I just grew up in a Catholic area, so I couldn't tell you about other religions practicing it because anyone else I know who practices Christianity doesn't really do Lent. So like, I don't really know, but from my experience, it was always just no red meat.
Okay.
But like what you did have to eat, that was fish.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Fish on Fridays, right?
Yep.
Fish on Fridays.
My house did that and pizza, so like it was kind of cool sometimes. You can get like
anchovies.
I was gonna say like you could do that, but we never did for whatever reason.
Oh man. All right, our last article for the day. If you drive an expensive car, you're probably a jerk, scientists say. No.
How was this test conducted?
Researchers at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, they speculated with a decent amount of I could say that this is a good hypothesis. This is one I would have believed in without any evidence. Just people that drive more expensive cars tend to be more of jerks like out on the road. And they tested this theory by just having people like walk through a crosswalk like in front of vehicles and see how the owners would and see how the like owners of the car would react. And like pretty much like with every $1,000 like the car a specific car went up in value, the owner acted more like a jerk, either like honking their horn, like yelling profanity, just straight up trying to hit the person, like run them out of the crosswalk.
Maybe Pope Francis saw this and was like, you all have to stop being mean.
Yeah, you should have to give up road rage. I feel like road rage probably causes
all
more
of New
harm.
Jersey would just give up Christianity at that point.
All of New Jersey has to hand in their licenses.
There'd be no one safe from that.
It's like the episode of South Park when the old people have to give up their licenses.
I love the most recent one for their Christmas special they did.
Oh,
how they all want to just get do drinking and driving, but they can't.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, this this study was really funny. The top 3 auto manufacturers they found where people acted like jerks were Audi, BMW, and Mercedes.
So like, if you own any of those cars, you're most likely a jerk.
That's what these researchers are saying. I'm not corroborating this, not agreeing technically.
But
this is research
where they're coming
though.
From.
This is research though. Am I one to be known to argue with science?
No.
I'd say no. I'd say I'm quite the science-friendly guy.
Science-friendly guy.
But that, like I said, that was our last article, and that about wraps up for the show today. I'd like to thank everyone so much for listening. Really excited to do the show in 2 weeks. Next week is spring break, so everyone's got big plans. Yep, big ideas. So we will not be in. So unfortunately, no Undeclared next week either. But
Boo.
boo. I know Undeclared just came back this week to be torn from the audiences again, be ripped right from their hearts. So I will see everyone in 2 weeks for another installment of Undeclared, and then another episode of Kutztown Live. Well, with that, I'll have 2 weeks of weird news to bring in. I'm excited. I'm excited for some great weird news conversation.
Do you have any weird predictions before we go?
Any weird predictions?
Like, give me a weird news prediction you think you might have. You've seen enough of this. I feel like you can come up with at least one that won't be accurate, but can kind of, someone can say I can see that happening.
I mean, like, every week there's something new with Trump that I usually just decide to ignore. Like, the first week I remember I talked about, like, him being interested in badgers. Like, how he asked his chief of staff a lot about liking badgers. So
keep him as pets.
Yeah, he's gonna produce something interesting. I saw his Twitter was popping last night. I was gonna report on that today, but like I said, I choose to ignore it. But that about wraps it up for the show today. So let's send it out, Vinny.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you stay tuned for some random nonsense next. You're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR.